From Channels Television International Headquarters in Lagos, this is Business Incorporated. I am Bosin Omofaye and we welcome you to the program. Coming up, stock markets in Asia finished the week in mixed territory ahead of the widely expected payroll data from the United States. And the specter of food insecurity is warming around the world, and the World Food Programme has cried out over critical funding challenges to ramp up food aid as weather conditions push millions to the edge of hunger. Plus, North Africa's Mauritania launches a new fishery transparency initiative that will work towards tackling the unregulated nature of fishing practices that facilitate overfishing all over the world. Welcome to the program. Let's spend the next 30 minutes together. The share markets in Asia today finished mixed ahead of the closely watched U.S. monthly jobs report that will be out as Wall Street opens in a few hours' time. The Japanese Nikkei 225 ended negative 1.32% to 16,819 points as a stronger yen against the dollar hurts Japanese big exporters for a second day. Meanwhile, auto giants Toyota and Honda shares finished the day down about 2% each, while Mazda shed nearly 5%. At the close of the market in Japan, Toyota reported 4.7% rise in net income for the 3 months ended December 2015. Meanwhile, the automaker's operating profit for the quarter fell by 5.3%, missing forecasts. In Hong Kong, within the region, the Hang Seng was up 0.4% to 19,255 points in afternoon trade, while the mainland's benchmark Shanghai Composite closed down 0.63%. The South Korea's Kospi Index closed flat, up just 0.08%. We have a lot to talk about from the global marketplace. We are now in the European trading day. A few hours left before the closing bell. A bittersweet market week is coming to an end, with the U.S. dollar still in the red, providing support for metals and oil prices and a continuing rally for the euro. And with a slew of earnings out of the major markets around the world, investors are also on the edge today over economic data from Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Let's bring on DWTV financial correspondent for Channels Television, Conrad Bossen. Thank you very much for finding time to be with us this afternoon. Conrad, let's get started. A disappointing way to end the week from the economic front. No thanks to the Germany and France's manufacturing orders data, squeezing the expected U.S. payroll data for us, and tell us what this Friday is looking like in Frankfurt.
Well, Bosun, maybe we should just first take a short look on what the market has been doing so far here in Frankfurt together with our viewers. Look at this. Look at the very jittery, very undecided up and down line the German DAX has been painting against the wall here in Frankfurt so far. Traders say this reflects and illustrates quite nicely what the sentiment is on the market today. You mentioned the U.S. labor market report. This is the event likely to decide today. In about an hour from now, the data is coming out. It's going to decide whether or not the market ends trading today on a positive or negative note. What's being expected? Well, companies in the U.S. should have created 190,000 new jobs in January, and the unemployment rate is expected to have remained at 5%. Anything much better would indicate that the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank was ready or is likely to be ready to continue to increase interest rates in March. Anything much worse would mean that the recovery of the U.S. economy has slowed down significantly, so no further interest rate hikes, but nothing to get enthusiastic about either. Of course, the development of wages is also something that the Federal Reserve will be looking at. The way that wages increase is also a very important indicator for how the development on the labor market has been going.
Yes, you sidestepped the France and Germany's manufacturing data. Add that together for us, Conrad, with the banking sector side of things. It's been a very tough week, starting from last week. The Deutsche Bank story, the Credit Suisse, the Italian BP Paribas, and the Swiss lender Julius Baer admitting to tax fraud, paying the authorities some money. Talk us through that side of the market for the week. Talk a little bit starting with the economic data from the Eurozone.
Well, that's true. We've been getting a very negative report from the German manufacturing sector. The factory orders in December decreased from November by 0.7%. That's a much stronger decrease and downturn than economists had forecast. Another indicator that the recovery also in the Eurozone is likely to be at least jittery, if not going down. One factor that's been weighing on the market quite significantly, and let me tell you, so far the German DAX here, the stock market, it has lost around about 4% this week, and that adds to the 9% the market has lost in the first trading weeks of this year. So we've seen losses of 13% on the stock market here in Germany so far this year.
Okay, so much bittersweet. Anything sweet on the markets? Conrad, finish the week on some positive note for us, please.
Well, I can tell you about a few assets that were in demand and whose prices were rising. Gold, it was in demand, and also German government bonds. Those are considered to be safe haven investments. The yield on German government bonds is down to 0.2%. Now, why should investors be ready to invest in assets that return nothing or nearly nothing? And I'm sorry, Bosun, I have to be giving you a bit of a negative news again. Of course, investors are ready to invest in those assets because other assets return even less. And also, investors are concerned about the geopolitical situation, about the Middle East again. Remember, in Geneva, the peace talks about Syria have fizzled. Saudi Arabia announced today that they are ready to send ground troops to Syria, and Russia and Turkey are quarreling over airspace. This is not really the kind of news that investors like to hear before they head into the weekend.
Yes, Conrad, and that is reflected in the zigzag there over your shoulder. Okay, let's sleep over that. Let's sleep over those news and hope we come back on Monday, the 8th, bright and early, hoping that things would have tapered off over the weekend. Conrad, do have a great weekend. All of you there in Frankfurt, DWTV for Channels Television there for you. We'll be back after the break. The World Food Programme is facing critical funding challenges. Millions around the world are hungry. There's a critical problem around the corner. Don't miss this. We'll be back with it in 1 minute.